Right now at 3, Nashville is set to host one of the biggest games in the world of sports. A look ahead to the Super Bowl coming to Tennessee.
And we are looking ahead to better rain chances over the next several days. Still going to be very warm and humid as we head into our Wednesday, but that's the good news. Better rain chances on the way the rest of the week. We'll have your full forecast coming up next.
Plus, 2 East Tennessee educators under fire, 2 different cases, one of them now facing charges. The updates coming into our newsroom within the past hour. Coming up. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to 10 News at 3. I'm Robin Wilhoit. We begin with today's top stories. Some exciting news for the volunteer state. The city of Nashville will host Super Bowl LXIV in the year 2030. Music City's new Nissan Stadium will host the biggest game of the year. The new home of the Titans set to open for the 2027 season. Our Nashville reporter Sam Perez is following this story for us. She heard from an ESPN reporter and football fans in the city. She will join us a little later with the newest information. New this afternoon, updates to 2 stories we've been following involving educators in East Tennessee. First, a Washington County School Board member is charged with simple assault. Now, this comes after the school board censured Keith Irvin. A video from a school board meeting shows he called a student hot and touched her. Irvin has said his comment was taken out of context. You can find that story in the student's address to the school board following the comment on WBIR.com. A teacher in Cumberland County under investigation. School records show David Wilcox resigned amid allegations of, quote, very inappropriate, explicit conversations with students. The records show the conversations allegedly happened in a group chat Wilcox was in with 2 female students. We previously reported the incident back in January. This after backlash from parents over a class assignment. The exercise had students list various things about themselves, including their sexual orientation. The records we obtained show Wilcox is suspended but has submitted a letter of resignation. He's facing no charges at this time. That is a check of just some of the day's headlines. More to come. Now we turn to your forecast. Meteorologist Todd Howell joining us. Todd, another very warm day in East Tennessee.
Yeah.
But with the warmth, something we're actually looking forward to, I can't believe I'm saying this, rain. We need the rain.
We need the rain. Hoping to see green on the radar soon. Right now, today, it's a blue kind of day. Isn't that right? We didn't even talk about it. Absolutely. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Robin, thank you so much. Let's get right to it. Let's take a live look at our Gatlinburg camera. Got some clouds above the mountains. We've got a mixture of sunshine and some clouds. It's been a breezy afternoon. Now, at McGee-Tyson Airport, currently 86 degrees. So we've stayed below 90 so far today. Dew point 61 degrees. Winds west at 8 miles per hour. It's been a little bit breezy at times, but we're looking at mid to upper 80s right now. Still going to see those temperatures rising several more degrees at least. We're going to end up close to 90 degrees today. That would put us at the 3rd straight day of 90 degrees or hotter. And here's a look at what our high-res model did a good job yesterday of showing. See some of these spotty thunderstorms on the Cumberland Plateau. Now, most of these will be on the plateau up into Kentucky. Not really expecting much in the valley. We have a slight chance, low-end chance for some isolated thunder showers. Here's our model forecast. Our high-res model does show a few of those isolated thunder showers possible this evening. Better chances on the plateau up into Kentucky. But with that, here's our 3-day forecast, and as Robin was alluding to, exactly. It's a process, but with each passing day, our rain chances are going to get a little bit better over the next couple of days. So we've got a 50% chance, a better chance for scattered showers and a few thunderstorms tomorrow. Still very warm and humid in the upper 80s. Mid-80s, a higher chance for showers and storms on Thursday. And then Friday, we'll still have elevated chances for those scattered showers and storms. So the cooling, we'll have a little bit of a cooling trend, not quite as hot, low to mid-80s. And as the temperatures go down, the rain chances are going up. That's what we're looking at. And Robin, this is very good news. Even as it takes us into the Memorial Day holiday weekend, the unofficial start summer, we need the rain. We're going to get better chances over the next 5 days.
Todd, it has been a long while since we've seen 5 straight days of rain chances that high.
Absolutely. It may be, I'll have to check, it may be the first time this spring since we've seen like 5 days in a row. You're exactly right. We've basically had a week's one rain event 1 week and then had to wait a whole nother week for another one. So this is good news.
We will take it. Todd, thank you very much. Well, new homes, apartments, and businesses could be on the horizon of Knoxville's South Waterfront. City leaders are pushing forward with a plan to build a pedestrian bridge from UT's campus to the other side of the river. Reporter Lauren Davis following this story for us today. Lauren, thank you for taking time. I know you're working on this story, but you're out here to tell us a little bit about what we can expect and what you learned today about this plan. Give us the big picture and then we'll get specific.
So this is one of Knoxville's most significant riverfront properties that's still underdeveloped, and it's about 15 acres that KCDC and the City of Knoxville plan to develop. Right now they are in the stage of looking for developers who are used to developing this kind of property. They're looking for mixed income, multi-use. So not only will you find homes, you'll also find businesses and just things that people in the community want.
Let's give folks an idea about where this would be. It pretty much is directly or close to the stadiums, the football stadium and the basketball stadium. It would be more in that vicinity coming across to the south side of the river, right?
Yes. So when I went to the 3 different addresses they gave me, the first address you literally see across the basketball stadium, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Then I go to the next property and they're not very far apart, but then you see across and you see the football stadium. And the plan is also on their 15-acre site to have the pedestrian bridge, so then people can walk across from that area in South Knoxville to the University of Tennessee campus.
Okay, you alluded to this, but is it too soon to know specifically some of the businesses they are hoping to capture in that arena?
It is too soon because they are in the process of just looking for developers, and they have until August to even say what they want to do and what they can do. And the earliest that they could do construction would be the end of 2027, because after they choose development teams, then they have to do permits and designs, and that takes about a year. Okay,
there are a lot of houses in that portion of South Knoxville on the waterfront. Any talk about them being impacted by this project?
So I put a post in a Facebook group asking people for their opinions, and a lot of people did have a lot of opinions, but they say they don't really care about the housing, they care about their infrastructure. They say their roads aren't that good, they're afraid of more traffic, but it also was a good thing because it is just an unused industrial area. There's a neighborhood with single-family homes and there's an apartment, but in between it's just industrial land that's not being used, so they hope to bridge those areas together.
Okay, what can we look forward to in your reporting today?
You can look forward to me talking to Ben Bentley, and he just explains it. I had to be like, hey Ben, for people who like our viewers who are not in your realm, can you just explain what the point we're at is? And the point we're at is just, hey, I'm a development team from all across the country. I have experience in what y'all want, so I'm gonna put in a request to build this.
Okay, so we're going to wait to see how many requests come in to build that, and we will be following it. Yes. Lauren Davis, as always, thank you. We appreciate you. When we come back, the debate between parents, school leaders, and advocacy groups continues over banning books in schools. It comes on the heels of Knox County pulling the award-winning novel Roots off of school library shelves. I sat down with a journalist who has covered education and government in Knoxville for decades. Our conversation about the concerns and what comes next for Knox County schools as the debate over banned books continues. Stay with us. Plenty of conversations, comments, and concerns in the days since the Knox County School District banned the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel Roots. That decision came last week to pull the book from library shelves, a move many educators and historians say doesn't factor in its historical and cultural significance. Under state law, school librarians are required to review books flagged as potentially inappropriate for students. We continue to follow this developing story, and earlier today I spoke with Jesse Mayshark from the online news publication Compass Knox about the facts surrounding the decision, the fallout, and what comes next for Knox County schools as this debate over banned books continues. Jesse Mayshark from Compass Knox, it's good to see you. Thank you for making time to be with us today.
Yeah, happy to. Great to see you too.
This is a talker, what we're getting ready to dig into. You were the first to report on Knox County pulling the great literary work Roots from the famed author Alex Haley off library shelves.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, how did you find out about this, and number two, what was your reaction?
Well, I've covered schools in Knox County on and off for a long time, so I know a lot of people in and around the system. And when you know people in and around the system, sometimes you hear things from people. So I had heard about this, and I'd been paying attention to books being pulled off Knox County school library shelves for the last few years, ever since this law passed, written about it a few times. And I got a note that, well, here's the latest batch, and Roots is on this list. So I contacted the school system to verify this, and they said, yes, in fact, that has happened. And it was bubbling around on social media, and so you kind of know how this goes as a reporter. I very quickly put something up on really just the Compass Facebook page to kind of say, if you've heard about this, yes, this has happened. Here's the confirmation, and we'll have more information on this. And it very quickly spiraled from there. I mean, everybody, and I wasn't surprised that so many people paid attention to it, because we have had, there were already more than 100 books that had been removed from Knox County shelves. But Roots is a particular book. I mean, it's not just a book, it's a cultural touchstone because of the really popular miniseries that it was made into in the late 1970s.
I watched. I mean, that was like must-see TV.
Yeah.
That, even my parents encouraged, hey, we're going to watch this.
Yeah, I mean,
I was 11.
I think more than half the households in America at the time watched Roots, which is just like astounding if you think about our current media landscape, that anything could generate that kind of audience. And I think it means a lot to a lot of people. And then, of course, we have the resonance of it here in Knox County and Knoxville, with Alex Haley's presence here over the years, the fact that we have a statue and a plaza dedicated to him. His papers are at the University of Tennessee. I mean, I think this would be a big story anywhere, but the fact that it's in Knox County, I think, gave it really some extra impact.
You guys had a lot of interactions, if you will, on that social. I know when I was listening to a podcast, your podcast for Compass Knox, that you had said thousands of interactions.
Yeah, which is, for us, that's a lot. We're a pretty small local news organization, and we were getting feedback from people all over the country. And I have to say that the overwhelming, I mean, I'm going to say 90+% of the people who responded in any way or shared it were concerned about it. They were upset that this had happened.
Specifically, what is it that was taken to task, if you will, that was pointed to as this is not appropriate?
I think that, so interestingly, according to the school system, that Roots had been submitted before, a passage from Roots had been submitted before to this district review committee that they have, which is the committee that considers books under this state law, which we can talk about in a minute maybe. And so somebody had flagged a passage in Roots previously and submitted it for review, saying that it maybe violated one of the categories in the state law. The first time, the review committee said, no, it doesn't. We think it's fine. So then there was a second submission, and this was a depiction of a rape of an enslaved woman by a slave owner, because Roots is it's not only about slavery. It follows a family from slavery then through the next, 100, 200 years of their family's life in the United States. But its depictions of slavery are very vivid and in some cases explicit about the kinds of abuse that went on, which, I mean, that's just history, and that was, I think, part of the impact of Roots at the time that it came out. And when the miniseries came out, it did kind of force people to see and acknowledge what had been part of this whole system of human enslavement. It was just like one page in this book that has a fairly graphic, not at all, I mean, this is not a passage that was written to be in any way provocative or anything like that. It was written to show the brutality of the system. And the review committee, based on the criteria they're given by the state, had to look at that and say, well, this does meet the definition of sadomasochistic abuse, which is one of the 4 or 5 categories that this law spells out, that if you find something depicts or describes sadomasochistic abuse in a book, then that book's not appropriate for any student at any grade level, K through 12, and so they removed it.
Let's talk more about the law that went into effect, was it 2 or 3 years ago.
It was so it's the Age Appropriate Materials Act, state law. It was initially passed in 2022 out of some concerns about, are there inappropriate materials on school library shelves? And then in 2024, they amended it, and that's really when the law was given some teeth and these specific definitions of these categories. And so if you have any work that shows a depiction of nudity, first of all, sort of any depiction of nudity. It doesn't even have to be...
Like even a health book?
Yes, yeah, and there have been health books removed as a result of this law. There have been children's books that like In the Night Kitchen by Maurice Sendak, which is a classic, popular children's book. There's one image on one page of that where a little boy is falling through the air and his pajamas come off, and so he's naked in this one scene, but it's kind of a cartoonish little drawing, but that book got removed. And then in terms of text descriptions, anything that describes sexual conduct or activity, excess violence, which is not really defined, and it's kind of hard to know exactly where that line is, and then sadomasochistic abuse. If any of those things are present in any work, regardless of why they're there, regardless of the context, the background, then libraries are supposed to remove them.
And there really is no differentiation when it comes to age either.
Yeah, that's a major change in this law, because before this law passed, it's not like we didn't have regulations on what was appropriate for schools. There were processes laid out in state law and local policy. There were ways that people could challenge. If they thought a book in a school library was inappropriate for that grade level, they could challenge it. It would go through a hearing, could ultimately come to the school board. But those decisions were made on an age-appropriate level. Now, this law, even though it's called the Age-Appropriate Materials Law, it emphatically refuses to differentiate between age levels, and so it says all grades K through 12. And what that functionally means is that really, for anything to be theoretically appropriate to be in a school library, it would have to be appropriate for a 5-year-old. Because if you're saying you have to treat everybody the same, then you kind of have to go to what's the lowest age range we're dealing with. And I don't think there's anybody who works in education anywhere who would say that what's appropriate for a 5-year-old and what's appropriate for a 17 or 18-year-old are the same at all.
They're worlds apart.
Yeah,
Let's face
completely.
it, 5 to 17. There's a lot of life between the two. And there's no way to pinpoint, at least in Knox County, who is bringing this up for discussion or is flagging it, right?
Yeah, and that's another change. It used to be if somebody challenged a book, that was a matter of public record. They might even have to come to a public meeting to explain why they were offended by something. Under this law, the law itself does not actually say anything about this as far as I can tell. I'm not a lawyer, but I've read this law many times. There's nothing in it that says that complaints have to be anonymous, but the way Knox County chose to set up its system, there are multiple pathways that materials can be referred to this committee. The first is through school librarians who are charged by the law with reviewing their collections, looking for things that might be in conflict with it, and if they find anything, sending it to this committee. But students and parents can also submit materials to the committee for review, and so can any school employee, not just a librarian. So it can be a teacher, it could be a custodian, could be somebody in the cafeteria, anybody who works in the school system. And what I've heard from school officials is that they want to especially protect school librarians. So if a librarian is flagging something, maybe not even because they themselves are offended by it, but because they have been told that, you have to look for these things, they don't want people to target the librarians, and that's understandable. But the effect of it is it gives a tremendous amount of power to anybody, whether it's a librarian, a teacher, a parent, a student, and let's say you just don't like some particular book. Like in this case, somebody submitted, or maybe it was two people, we don't know, but somebody submitted Roots twice for review, which kind of makes it seem like maybe somebody was really trying to get rid of this book in particular. And so if somebody has an issue with a particular book or material, they can just kind of go through it and look for one line, one picture, one anything, and say, oh, this violates this particular part of this law, put it in for review. And the school system says they're not keeping any records of that. And so that, I think there's always a balance between anonymity, confidentiality, security, all of those things. But in this case, it's just giving a lot of power to any one anonymous person.
Knox County School Board wanting to delve into this a little further. As a matter of fact, board member Ann Templeton, we spoke to her for a story that we aired yesterday, and she wants to bring up the discussion for the broader concerns about how books are reviewed and removed under state law. John Becker and I were talking about this yesterday, and he'd reached out to a school board member to see how much you have heard from the public, and the answer was a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So clearly they recognize there needs to be a broader discussion.
Yeah, and I think, they maybe felt a little bit broadsided by it because, again, these decisions, the way this process is set up in Knox County, they don't come to the board. They don't even necessarily hear about them. Like, the review committee makes its determinations, and if they identify some books to remove, they send that notice to their librarians and say, okay, you need to take these books off the shelves. As far as I know, there is not any official notification that goes to board members. That may be one thing that the board members are going to ask for, is like, when you do this, please let us know. Because I think some of them found out about it at the same time everybody else did. But then beyond that, the school board could have a greater role here. The law actually contemplates the involvement of the school board, but then it also says that school systems can, if they want, set up their own systems, which is what Knox County has done. So if the board wants to give itself a role here to be involved in the consideration, it looks to me like there's ways that they could do that, even without changing the law. They could just, change their policy and say, we want to have some level of board discussion or knowledge when this happens.
Is there a situation in which they make those changes, if you will, that they could then bring a book back to shelves?
And that's very much an open question. Again, from reading the law, there's nothing in it that forbids that I can tell. There's nothing that says once it's gone for good. It just doesn't refer to any sort of review or appeal or reinstatement process at all, and neither does Knox County's policy. And so I think that's one thing the board's going to look at, again, without having to. I think some of the things that Templeton is concerned about in terms of being able to consider, say, the broader context of a work and those kinds of things, those would require changes to state law, and I think that may be one thing they're going to talk to their legislators about. But I think there's also some things the board can do probably without having to change the law, just changing their own policies, including maybe having some sort of appeal and reinstatement process, because they don't have one right now. And again, like I said, as far as I can tell, there's nothing that says they can't.
You mentioned this, and to go along with what you're saying, every county has their own way of doing it. And as you mentioned, Nashville, Memphis, those respective counties have not banned any books.
Yeah, when the law was first passed, I saw there were reporters in Nashville and Memphis who reached out to their school boards or their superintendents, and they were basically told, we looked at it, we think we're fine. And I haven't been able to find that there's been any revisiting of that. A lot of the school systems right around us have not actually removed very many books. Knox County has removed more than most in the state. It's about 124 is the total titles pulled. There's been some counties, Wilson County, Rutherford County, they have removed more. It's really on a very county by county basis, which tells you that, people are, I think in some cases, struggling to interpret exactly what kinds of materials are being, the state wants them to take out. And then some of them are just choosing to be reactive, kind of sitting back to wait and see if somebody raises an issue with a particular book. So even though the law is pretty restrictive and it's specific in those categories it lays out, there's obviously an awful lot of discretion that's being used by different school boards around the state. One thing that I do think is worth knowing is that the cumulative effect of all this is that Tennessee is now the number 3 book banner in the country between Texas and Florida. Texas and Florida have by far removed the most books over the last 5 years, but those are also much bigger states than Tennessee. On a per capita basis, Tennessee is probably right up there in terms of how many books we are removing, and that's really just being driven by librarians, school officials across the state trying to understand this law.
Well, this is a story that will continue to produce more chapters, and we know you'll be following it. We will as well. So, Jesse Mayshark, we appreciate your time and, of course, your insight in explaining this story and where it may lead us. So, thank you.
Happy to be here.
You are streaming 10 News at 3 right here on WBIR. Our Nashville-based reporter Sam Perez joining us next with more on today's big announcement. Tennessee tapped to host an upcoming Super Bowl. We'll be right back. The NFL made the official announcement today. Nashville will host the Super Bowl in the year 2030. Our Nashville-based reporter Sam Perez following this exciting news, joining us now from Nashville. Sam, good to see you. Thanks so much. Okay, so yes, the official announcement came today, but you got wind of this yesterday. Tell us how that came about.
Yeah, I did. You know, Robin, I'll tell you, being here in the Music City, it's been a buzz since I got here about 2 months ago. I think everyone's been waiting for this news. I've heard from leaders that this work really started back in 2019 when Nashville had the NFL draft here. This has been a deal that's been years in the making, and so it's been generating a lot of excitement, a lot of talk here in Nashville. But I did connect with the ESPN's #1 NFL insider, Adam Schefter, and he did say yesterday that he expected this deal to go through. The NFL owners voting 32-0 in Orlando at the Spring League meeting today to bring the Super Bowl here to Nashville in 2030. So I talked to Schefter, and he said this is going exactly as he expected. He said it was basically a done deal and just needed the rubber stamp on it from those owners today.
Maybe a way in which the city of Nashville has tried to bring attention to itself once again, that stadium that is under construction right now. We're looking at video of it right now. Is that the assumption that this played a big part in them coming?
Yeah, Robin, definitely safe to say. So Schefter was telling me that he compared it to the Field of Dreams when you start to put something into the works like building that new Titans stadium. And then he said the NFL will follow. And that is a message that that Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation President and CEO Dina Ivey, she echoed that sentiment. So she's actually in Orlando right now. I'm looking forward to getting to speak with her tomorrow when she's back here in Music City. But she said that the Titans stadium was certainly a big influence on the NFL. It's going to be a huge stadium right next to the current Titans stadium that is still being utilized, and the construction work is underway. I was just there a few minutes ago actually checking on that construction, and it is set to wrap up in February of 2027, so it'll give the team some time to get used to that new stadium again before the Super Bowl comes just 3 years later in 2030.
We got a statement from Governor Bill Lee. He had this to say: Tennessee's selection to host the 2030 Super Bowl, proud moment for our state. We invested in a new stadium with a vision for the future, one that brings major events, drives tourism, and fuels economic growth while creating new opportunities for communities across Tennessee. I am grateful for the partnerships that made this possible. So, Sam, that's what the governor has to say. Have you had the opportunity to talk to fans about what they have to say about the Super Bowl coming to town?
I definitely have. I went out as soon as the news was officially announced. I went on Broadway, a good opportunity to connect with a lot of different people. And I spoke to both Nashville residents, like a man named Michael Amaker. He said when the Titans Stadium was announced, he was a big proponent of it. He's a big Titans fan himself. And he says that he thinks having the excitement of the Super Bowl here, all eyes on the Super Bowl, as well as having that new stadium, is he thinks going to be a big push for the Titans themselves to keep practicing and keep putting in the work to continue to develop that program. And then I also talked with a bunch of tourists who are here from all over, from Florida, from Texas. I talked to someone from Canada, even from Australia, and they understand the excitement and the appeal of coming here to Nashville, even just for the honky tonks on Broadway. So they say that bringing the Super Bowl here, they know, is going to attract even more people to this area. And that's definitely something that local leaders, state leaders are really excited for. Is not only is this exciting thing for football fans, but it's also going to be a massive economic driver for the city. And so there's a big emphasis on preparing the city for the influx of people. And so leaders say they're expecting more than 18,000 new hotel rooms to come to Nashville. Currently, there's around 61,000. Eventually, by 2030, there will be over 80,000 hotel rooms, again, in preparation for all of the fans coming for the Super Bowl.
Boom continues in Music City. All right. Sam, we appreciate all the information. We'll look for your story later today. Now, 2 of the next 4 Super Bowls, they will be in the South. Next year, it'll be Inglewood, California, outside Los Angeles. 2028, that will be Atlanta. 2029, Las Vegas. And then, of course, 2030, Nashville. All right, Sam, thanks so much. We appreciate you. Well, we want to talk about what we are streaming a little later today on 10 News. New deals revealed in court as the trial continues for a young man in Greene County charged with murder. Jordan Allen accused of killing his grandmother and 7-year-old brother with a hammer. It happened in 2022 when the suspect was 16 years old. Allen facing 2 counts of first-degree murder. So far today in the courtroom, the jury has seen evidence TBI agents gathered at the scene, including that hammer. Agents said they found it hidden under bed sheets in that home. During cross-examination, Allen's defense attorney focused on the evidence collection process. He argued the items should not have been collected or tested. You can read much more on that story right now on WBIR.com. Our reporter, Alana Munich, in the courtroom. She will have her report from Greene County coming up on 10 News at 5 and 6. You can see streaming right here. Streaming next on WBIR, Hope After Tragedy, our special documentary 30 years after the murder of a little girl from Knoxville, 5-year-old Brittany Daniels. Then on 10 News at 4, we're live with 10 About Town. That and much more coming up. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great afternoon.